Which word of the day? Today's word is juju. Noun. In New Orleans, a juju is an object which protects a person or place from negativity and evil. It is usually made from something which was once alive, such as a gator head or a tree made into a carved mask, totem pole, etc. Jujus can be hung above the door to a home or business, or placed on an altar, or anywhere in the home that needs protection. It also happens to be the name of Mama Odie's snake in Princess and the Frog.
You haven't even read that?
Wait, what are you doing with the book?
So he has the confidence to finish the story.
Hear now the words of the witches.
This is Kevin, and welcome to Words of the Witches, the Charmed podcast that will guide you through the lesser-known published material in the Charmed universe and decide how it fits into the grand narrative of the TV series. Here we are, episode 5. It's happening, guys. This is real. First things first, we did get another review, which is super exciting. I love that people are willing to give the reviews, so I'm going to read this for you. It's a 5-star review. It came from Podcaster, actually. The other ones came from Apple Podcasts, so this is a new platform. But it says, "This is awesome. Truly an enjoyable podcast for those who love Charmed. Kevin and his guests pick apart the novels as much as my writer brain does, and it's wonderful. I love the episodes, but even more, I enjoy the word of the day and little skits at the end." From Axel626. Oh, I love that. I love that you mentioned the little word of the day, because I thought that was such a cute little thing to add, and I'm glad you appreciate that. And I know you're a huge supporter on Instagram as well, so that is awesome. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, the Ultimate Power Challenge results.
There's one more battle on the horizon, one unlike you've ever faced before.
Ultimate Power Challenge.
Now, before I get started with the nitty-gritty of that, I wanted to explain the Ultimate Power Challenges for a minute here. I came up with them because I want them to be something that you can't easily Google. These are meant to be kind of difficult questions, but I want to know, like, give me your feedback. Are these too hard? Are these annoying? Is it something that you don't want to go out and investigate and do work on? So maybe it's something you just want to listen to and hear. That's fine too. But we only got one response to this question, which I thought this was one of the easier ones that I had in mind. So if that's any indicator of how hard these are going to be. But I got one response, and it wasn't all the way right. And that's okay, because these are so difficult questions. The goal is just to see who can get closest to the correct answer. And then we give the correct answer, and then the person who emailed first but this close to the correct answer will get their feature. So that's kind of how it's going to work. I'm still open to suggestions about this because it is kind of new and I'm still feeling it out a little bit. But that's how it is right now. And we did get one response. So they automatically become the feature this week. And they did get part of the question right. So this is what they wrote. This is from Bryce Lee Wynn. "In response to your question about the Charmed when celebrating Christmas, I can only think of one instance in the original series where Christmas was mentioned, and that was in the episode for Thank You for Not Morphine. Victor gives Prue, Piper, and Phoebe a home video that features him, all 3 sisters, and their mother Patty opening Christmas gifts. Doing some further research into the topic, I discovered the WB wasn't too keen on Christmas or Thanksgiving episodes because those episodes were difficult to re-air during syndication." So that's a cool little tidbit he threw in there, which you don't have to do, and that is very much appreciated. So Bryce, thank you for that, and that is correct. That is the first instance of Christmas in Charmed, season 1, episode 3. Thank you for not morphine. I did ask my guest this week about this question because I thought it'd be fun to answer them. It's a little bit out of sequence, but I will include that clip here for you too.
Christmas. Well, when it was mentioned.
Yeah, there's no Christmas episodes, but where are there moments that shows that they did celebrate it or have added in there?
Piper blew up the Christmas decorations in season 3 when she was getting a hold of her powers, and that was in Look Who's Barking.
Yes. And yes, that is correct. The second instance of Christmas was season 3, episode 21, Look Who's Barking, where Piper blows up the Christmas decorations in the basement. The third one nobody has gotten, and this is probably because it happens later in this series. It's season 7, episode 11, Ordinary Witches, when Paige and Kyle go to the past, and they see Christmas in that time. So there you go. Those were the 3 instances of Christmas in Charmed. Did they surprise you? Probably, because it's not something you usually think about. So this is why I'm making you think. I'm making you think. We're using those noggins, using those brain cells, using those research tactics. There will be another one, not probably for a few episodes, but there we go. And because Bryce got closest to the correct answer, so I asked, how did you discover Words of the Witches? Kevin, the host of Words of the Witches, is also co-host of Brunching with the Halliwells, another Charmed podcast I enjoy. He got this confused. He mixed Brunch with the Halliwells and Hanging with the Halliwells together. I'm on Hanging with the Halliwells. Brunch with the Halliwells is kind of like, I consider it kind of like a sister spinoff. Well, we're the spinoff. Brunching with the Halliwells was first. They've been doing stuff for a while. And then Sean and I created ours as like a hop along onto that. So there are 2 podcasts, Brunch with the Halliwells and Hanging with the Halliwells. You can definitely listen to both. Question 2. What made you a Charmed fan? I discovered Charmed in college. I came in on season 3. I would record the episodes from TNT onto VHS tapes. VHS tapes, classic. And they will never leave my heart and psyche and brain and mind. I will still watch VHS tapes. Question. What is your favorite Charmed episode? He says, Sense and Sensibility is such a fun episode. All 3 ladies are giving great comedic performances. Plus, I love when magic working against them can have real-world ramifications. Sense and Sensibility is definitely in my top 5 favorite episodes. It's hysterical. It's a wonderful ride, and it's great. So I definitely agree with that. Question 4. What is your favorite sister moment? My favorite sister moment is when Piper and Paige lay down in bed with Phoebe after they vanquish Cole. I love that Piper is the big spoon and Paige is the littlest spoon. It's such a special moment. I agree. That was in Long Live the Queen after they vanquish Cole, and they just really are embracing each other and they're comforting each other. And I did see a theory on one of the Charmed groups that I'm in that Cole was kind of like a crutch to Phoebe after she lost Prue, and it allowed her to kind of focus on him and rethink about her grief. And after she lost Cole, she was kind of feeling that loss, but also the loss of Prue, that she was kind of confiding into him. And I like to think of it that way because a little bit more Prue grief with Phoebe would have been appropriate. So, and then we have you read the books before? Are you reading them now, or are you discovering the novels with the podcast? Do you have a favorite Charmed book? He says, I just purchased my first Charmed book. I have read some of the Charmed comics. I honestly did not know there were so many Charmed novels until this podcast. I am so grateful that we are bringing the books to light. That's great that you are now aware of all the things that's going to be happening. Cool. Next question. If you had a magical power, what would it be? He says, glamoring. I would love to be able to glamour into anyone I wanted. And the next one is, what's a story you would like to see played out on Charmed? Or what's a story you would have liked to see played out on Charmed? Or do you have anyone that you would have liked to see more of? He says, I would have loved an episode where the Charmed ones go to New Orleans and they encounter a voodoo coven and have to join forces to fight a demon. That is really funny because this week's episode is about voodoo and it takes place in New Orleans. So this was the perfect episode for you to be featured on. I said, anything you'd like to ask me? And he says, if you were cast in an episode of Charmed, what character would you like to play and what would the premise of the episode be? Oh my. Oh, I know exactly who I'd be. In my Book of Shadows prop, I have a page of myself as this kind of neutral being called Mercendius, and he is a person that's kind of torn apart by these 2 different sides of him. He has the power of pyrokinesis and aquakinesis. He's from 2 parallel universes, and I consider it like my past life. So if I was on that show, I'd like to play Mercendius past life and be a current witch. Like I like to be maybe one of the descendants of the Charmed ones, maybe Wyatt or Chris, or even a son of Wyatt or Chris, and I come face to face with my past life. And it's this Mercendius neutral guy, and you never know if he's going to destroy the world or save it, and they have to kind of try to balance that. That would be fun. And now, on with the episode. Voodoo Moon. I'm here with Neil. How do you voodoo?
I voodoo very well, thank you. How do you voodoo?
I don't know if that was funny. A pun, I'm doing good. It's morning and bright and shiny right now, so that's nice.
Oh, lovely. It's a lot overcast here. It's mid-afternoon, so in England.
But there's still sunlight, right?
Yeah, it's still light, but it's just been very cold today, so
Oh, yeah.
not very
Chilly.
light.
A chill is in the air. You're my first international guest. How's that? That's exciting.
That is exciting. I like that.
So, how did you discover Charmed?
I discovered Charmed towards the end of season 3. I think my first episode was San Francisco, which is a good one to start with. No wonder I got hooked. But
It's one of my favorite ones, yeah.
every Saturday we used to go around to my aunt's house for dinner, and in England, Charmed aired every Saturday evening. So I got like free reign of the TV, and as soon as I caught a glimpse of it, I think I was just hooked, and it's never really gone away. So,
Anything else? What other interesting things? What do you do?
well, I just work like the average sort of 9 to 5 job in an office, which isn't particularly exciting. But in my spare time, I like to write. I'm a bit of a writer, so I actually published my first book back in December, which is quite.
What's it called?
It's called The Devil's Hand, and it's heavily influenced by things like Charmed and Buffy, and it's actually set in the 90s too. So there's a lot of that sort of going on with it. So check it out if anybody wants to read anything else as well.
Yes. Mystery, intrigue, magic, all the things. Yeah, awesome. All right. I wanted to tell you something before I started. You remind me of the Babe.
Of the who?
You're supposed to say, what, Babe?
Syrup Babe.
The Babe with the power. The power of voodoo. Who do you do? Remind me of the Babe.
I like
Do you know what it's from?
No.
It's from a movie called The Labyrinth with David Bowie.
Oh, Labyrinth. Do you know what?
Yeah.
My boyfriend likes that film, but I actually have a thing about puppets. So I've actually been watching it, so that's why I didn't clock the reference.
Gotcha. I was like, oh. I saw my baby crying, hard as babe could cry. You know, just David Bowie stuff. It's fun. But yeah, he said voodoo in it, so I thought of the song because I'm weird like that.
Oh.
All right. I guess we can jump right into the book then. So I will kind of summarize, and you'll jump in when something strikes you, or if you notice something.
Yeah, sure. That sounds great.
So this one is called Voodoo Moon. It was written by Wendy Staub, published August 1st, 2000, with a reprint October 2nd, 2000. And the novel is supposed to be set between season 1 and 2, so like the summer between season 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because, and I get these online, so I wouldn't really have known. I kind of always based it off the picture.
Yeah, that's what I do as well.
But I guess I found out that might be wrong. So because they had a season 1 picture on the last book, and it's supposed to take place in season 2. And it's funny, this book actually takes place before Whispers from the Past, because Whispers from the Past takes place in season 2, and this takes place before season 2.
Right, that is confusing a little bit.
It's after chronologically in release, but before in the timeline. So it's weird.
Yeah, it's a bit of an odd one because they don't, as you probably will notice, they didn't mention Andy at all. So
right.
I thought Prue might have been in mourning about it or something, but not really.
Exactly. Yeah. Look at us, we're already getting into it. But yeah, season 1 and 2, because Andy just died, and and it's before her big breakdown in season 2, episode 1, Witch Trials. So. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I'll go for that.
Yeah, and the cover has one of my favorite season 2 pictures. I had this printed out in my locker at high school.
Well, I love it as a post on my wall. So yeah,
it's one of the most beautiful pictures of them all. They're all holding hands. It's just, and all the hair is lovely. So I love this picture. And in the background, there's like trees, and there's like a moon that's glowing behind some clouds. And it does have the Win a Diamond Heart pendant. This is the last book that has the Diamond Heart pendant drawing.
I think that's in the American ones as well. That's what I noticed when you showed me your covers. I don't think we have that here.
But I have that on book 2, 3, 4, and 5, and this is the last one that has it on there. And it has a tagline: "Terror walks at night." The back: "If her soul is bound by an evil spell, call back her spirit with a ringing bell. Salt in her left hand, gold in her right, will cast off the dark and restore her soul's light." Lovely. The Halliwells are on vacation. It's time to party in New Orleans. But on Prue, Piper, and Phoebe's first night in the Big Easy, Phoebe has a dream filled with images of strange, violent rituals under a full moon. Soon after, a new friend of Prue's disappears on the night of the full moon. When the Chungwins try to find her, they are drawn into a dark world of voodoo sorcery, a powerful magic like nothing the sisters have ever seen. Boom. All right, so it starts with Prue stuck in traffic. She's on her way to the airport. She got out of Buckland's that morning, and there's this like jerk teenager behind her. It's like, move it, lady. And she's like, what do you think I'm going to do? The traffic is stopped. I can't go anywhere. Look around you, buddy. And it's like, so that, I don't know what this kid wanted to do, fly away or something.
Yeah. I really like this scene because as an opener, I think I can almost picture Shannon acting it. Like, I think the lines that, and the characterization, I think, is pretty good.
Oh my God, this whole book, I feel like they got Prue's character down real well in this book.
Mm.
Yeah, it's really nice. So then we have that. She's trying to call Piper and Phoebe at the airport. She's like, I'm going to be late, but of course her phone is dead for some reason. And
yeah, that's not like Prue, guys.
Right. And so Piper and Phoebe are at the airport waiting for Prue, and they're about to board, and they're really worried. They're like, where is she? We're about to be called on. What's happening? And then the attendant calls over the standby passenger, Gabrielle, who's about to get Prue's seat because she's late. They just announced a full flight and that there's no standbys, and then there's like, oh, Gabrielle Trousseau, come here to the front. And then Piper's like, no, she's gonna give him Prue's seat. What? And then Prue in the distance, she's like, I'm here. Like, I'm coming. And so the Piper just freezes the whole scene. She's like, oh my gosh, Prue, get over here right now. And so they jump up to the clerk, and then Tybin freezes, and she checks in and everything. And then the Gabrielle check is just like fuming. She's like pissed off. She's like, what? That's supposed to be my seat.
It's so crazy. She didn't have the seat in the first place, and she's so tough about it. She's like, you stole my seat. It's totally on.
Actually, no, I paid for this flight. You're just on standby, so chill.
Exactly.
Yeah, but she's like, I hate you. Like, she points to Prue and just gives her the death stare. I didn't. Yeah.
I wouldn't do Shannon. I wouldn't do that.
Right? No, you don't mess with Prue.
No.
But so they're like, okay, that crazy lady. Let's just get on the plane and go. And then so they arrive in New Orleans. They arrived 2 hours late, I guess, because they had to. I don't know. They didn't have space for them at first or something, so they arrived late. And then they find that the hotel that Phoebe apparently booked has no record of the reservation, so that's great. And
it's like a baseball convention, isn't it, when they arrive, I think. Yeah, and that's why the hotels are all screwed.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's right, the convention. So so all the hotels are full, like there's nothing available, and so they're freaking out. They're like, okay, well, where are we going to stay? This is not good. We might have to go back home now after we just got here.
Yeah.
But then they see that crazy lady because she took the flight after them there, and because they were 2 hours late, Gabrielle sees them there. She's like, "Oh, hi, you guys!" just like so sweet. I'm so sorry, I freaked out back there. Family issues.
Completely switch of personality. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I would not be like, no, you were really scary. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'd probably walk away, pretend I was busy.
Yeah, there's a difference between being emotional and being just like insane. And that, so.
Red flags already.
Mm-hmm. And then when she hears they have no place to stay, she gets them booked at her friend's old plantation. They have like a bed and breakfast. She's like, oh, you can stay here. That's fine. It's really cool. And she gives the sisters her business card. And apparently she's like, let's make a plan. We'll go to dinner. I work at the Jackson Square Voodoo Museum. I'm the curator there. Cool.
Have you been to New Orleans? Is something I thought when I read this book.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that too. I never have. I always kind of wanted to check it out. I always feel like I've kind of romanticized the idea because of movies and stuff, but I've never been myself.
So I went back in 2017, and I was quite surprised by reading this book, all the places that are mentioned, and Jackson Square, where she said that the museum was, it's all real places. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Well researched. That's pretty cool. Yeah, it is neat.
Yeah.
And you got to really enjoy it because you got that first-hand experience. You're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome.
Yeah, I feel like the author of this book did a really good job of actually, weaving in the real life sort of atmosphere of New Orleans. So I appreciated that for sure.
Yeah, that is nice.
But I digress.
Right. No, it's good. It's good to talk about it because I was thinking like this is really. It seems like I want to go there. They make me really want to go there even more. I always think of something like Princess and the Frog, the Disney movie. I'm just like, oh, I love it.
Yeah, exactly.
And in Disney World, because I go to Disney World quite a bit, they have a whole resort called Port Orleans. It's themed after the New Orleans.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they have a spot that's like mocked after the French Quarter, and so it's really neat. It's really neat stuff. So I want to stay there one of those times.
Yeah, I recommend it. It's really I want to go back. It's one of my favorite places for sure.
Cool. So then the sisters get in there. They rent a car and they drive to their inn that Gabrielle suggested, called the Montague House. Is outside the city, so it's not quite in New Orleans proper, but it's like a little bit off the beaten path in the middle of nowhere. And they're driving down, like, where is this place? She's like, is this gonna be a dump? This is like, where are we going?
I sort of like this scene as well because it shows Phoebe map reading again, which reminded me of season 2's How to Make a Crawl Out of Americans. So I thought that was quite nice as well.
On par, very nice. I love that. I love the references. Yes.
Bit of continuity. I like that.
Mm-hmm. And then, so when they get there, they are just amazed at how they're in awe of its grandeur because it's this really nice like plantation house, beautiful. It probably has it has a gate and the double, the stories. I mean, you've seen those.
Oh yeah, they're beautiful. I'd love to have one.
So they get to this beautiful house. They arrive, and this gorgeous handyman. A handyman. I wonder who that sounds like. But his name is Randy Claudel. And Piper and Phoebe pine for him. And this is so many parallels with Leo. It's crazy.
Yeah. I think at one point as well, Phoebe says, "Oh, I saw him first," which is exactly what it says about Dan in season 2 opener.
Yeah. It's like they're always going after the guys together. I don't know what that is. But it's definitely on par with this book. So I guess they are keeping some tabs on the show, which is cool. Mm-hmm. And then Randy invites them in to meet their hosts, Kane and Daphne Montague. So they greet the host people that own the house, and they have some tea. They meet the housekeeper / cook Yvonne, and she's like this older Cajun lady. She has like the Gambit accent. Cher,
Yeah.
And she how old did they say she was? Like maybe like 80, 90? She's pretty old, but really she's put together. And then they cut to they're on a night at the town. They went into the city. They're partying it up. They were in the club or whatever, and now they decided to go home. So it's jumped a lot of space. It went from meeting their host to already coming home from their night on the town. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, it does jump around quite a bit, doesn't it?
But then, as they're looking for their car, they can't remember where they parked. They get held at gunpoint. A man held a gun, and he's like, "Give me your money." So typical. And Phoebe is sassy to him. She's like, "I don't have any money. I don't have a wallet."
I like that.
Yeah, she's like, Piper's like, "Phoebe, he has a gun."
Yeah, Piper's the one I think who's got the gun jabbing into her. So he's being a bit rude by just like not going. I don't know.
Yeah, she's like, "Don't piss him off." But Phoebe's like, "I don't care." She's like, "He's not getting anything from me. This guy has nothing." And then they hear the click of the gun. It goes, and then Prue just turns around and flings him into the wall. She's like, "Oh no, you are not shooting us. Don't even try it, man." So he's just kind of like knocked out and hurt and stuff, and then they run away.
Yeah, they all been worried about showing magic or something.
Yeah, like so much for magic-free vacation.
Yeah, they should have known as soon as they said that what would happen.
It's like you can't have a magic-free vacation when you have innate magic. I mean, maybe you can suppress it, I suppose, but I don't know. Can't imagine you won't use your powers at some point. But
yeah, especially if you're going to get like mugged or attacked, I feel like you should be, not too hard on yourself for defending.
Right. Right. So then they go to it's the next day. Prue and Piper are up and at 'em, but then Phoebe is waking up, and Piper's like, "Come on, it's noon." Get out of bed. And they decide, like, we're gonna explore the house. We're gonna get the lay of the land. We're gonna just like see what this place is about. So they go outside and they're walking around. Prue's like, "This is the kitchen from whatever." And Piper's like, "Ooh, kitchen?" And Phoebe's like, "Ugh, I don't care about this."
I thought it does pretty well at like showing that Prue is a responsible one, Piper's the anxious one, and Phoebe's, well, she's portrayed as a bit lusty again, isn't she? But
I mean, the themes are pretty common. Yeah. But because Phoebe is just kind of like not interested in that, she kind of walks off a little bit and like does her own kind of investigating, and she peers into this like door that was opening into a small building, and she's like, "Let's look in here." And Yvonne stops her. She's like, "No, you do not come in here. Keep to yourself, or you'll be sorry."
quite dramatic.
Yeah, I'm like, ooh. Especially coming from an old lady, you think most of them would be a little bit more, I don't know, welcoming, especially if you're in a B&B.
Yeah, totally.
But she's really just like, "No, you stay out of here." And then shortly after, Phoebe decides to close the door, stick Van back in there, and she gets a premonition of a girl screaming over some chanting in the background. She's like, "Oh, what does that mean?"
Yeah, so much for a magic-free vacation. There you go. I'm right in it now.
Right. I mean, and especially when her premonition is just going to come to her, you can't control that. Like,
Exactly.
Well, then the sisters go have lunch. They eat some gumbo, and Phoebe tells her sisters what happened with the premonition. And they're introduced to another couple that was staying at the B&B. They're like, "Yeah, we're heading out now. This is our last day, but we had fun." And Piper was kind of relieved to see other people. She's like, "Oh, I guess we're not the only ones. It's good." So there are other guests that come. Like, that's kind of nice. And then they're sleeping now at nighttime, and Phoebe hears these drums in the middle of the night. She hears wailing and moaning and screams and stuff. She's like,
Yeah, not good signs at all.
Right. But she's like, "I'm just going to go back to sleep." And then she hears the creaking of floorboards in her room. I'm like, "Oh my, that would be so terrifying."
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, she's like under her covers, and she hears like, okay. So then she's like, "Well, I'm gonna grab it." So then she removes the covers and starts to look out, and then someone holds her mouth and comes out with shears, so she can't scream, and she's about to be cut.
God. Horrifying.
Yeah, I mean, my heart was pounding reading this. Like, and then Phoebe she cries, "No!" She hustles the attacker right out of the bed, but then she looks around and there's nobody there, and it's morning all of a sudden. So I'm like, "Oh, that must have been a dream."
I don't get why anybody in Charmed would ever just assume that something was just a dream. That always made me a bit crazy with stuff like that. You should always just trust it.
Right. I mean, maybe because of the ways that it happened in an instant, but you could have been drugged.
Yeah.
Hint, hint.
I'd be suspicious of everything. I wouldn't just be like, "Oh, it's probably fine." I wouldn't
Right.
do that.
So then Piper tells Phoebe the plans for the day. She's like, "Oh, we're going to go here. We're going to try to go get lunch at this Remy's because I really want to see this chef that I've been admiring. He's so famous. He's so good. I'm going to go get that table, and then we're going to go to a museum and all that stuff." But she notices a side of Phoebe's hair was sitting different than usual. She's like, "Oh, yes, it usually fits behind my ear, and now I can't tuck my hair behind my ear. That's strange." So now she questions, like, "Was that dream real?" Probably not.
Again, even with your hair as evidence, you just assume that it's fine. That's a bit crazy, I think. But
Yeah, it's just funny how she's like, it's like maybe it was real, and then laughs it off. I'm like, maybe.
Funny.
Okay, maybe it was a coping mechanism. Maybe she's just like trying to calm her fears a bit. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
So now, Prue was going crazy. She was like really high up the homes they looked at in the Garden District. She's like, "This home was beautiful. This home was amazing." She's like, "Didn't you guys love it?" And Piper is excited to get her lunch because she was explaining about the lunch at Remy Fortier's restaurant. That's French. And I took French in high school, so I remember a little bit. I'm a little rusty, but I do remember French at least a bit. So
yeah, I did it at school as well, but I wasn't really that good at it. Funnily enough, actually, when I met Shannon Doherty in France at Paris Comic Con, we talked about how.
in 2014.
I think this one was 2018. I think it's the last
Okay.
that she did before all the sad news. But we actually had a conversation about how neither of us could speak French, so that was quite nice.
That's awesome. She's the only one I haven't met, and it breaks my heart because like she's the one I wanted to meet the most.
Yeah, Prue was always my favorite as well. So,
but it's funny because I've been hearing a lot of people favoring Prue lately, and it's like funny because growing up, everyone's like, "I hate Prue. She's everything's about her, la la la." And now I'm seeing all these people that actually really loved her. I'm like, good, I'm not the only one. So that's good.
I think the older that I get, actually, the more that I relate to her. So, like when I was younger, I thought she was a bit of like a stick in the mud. But I think now I'm sort of coming from a older perspective. And I'm like, you know what? She talks sense on a lot of stuff. So
okay, so now they get to the restaurant, and there's a 2-hour wait. So it's like, okay, well, we'll just like put our name in, and we'll come back later in 2 hours, and we'll eat then. She's like, oh no, if you leave, we can't accept. You have to stay here and wait. They're like, what? Okay, well then we'll just make a reservation for tomorrow. I was like, we don't take reservations. I'm like, this restaurant is like horrible.
yeah.
So all the sisters were aggravated. No one wants to. They're all hungry right now. They don't want to wait, and they don't want to have to like jump through hoops just to get here. So they just decide to go somewhere else. And they eat these po' boys, which are an authentic, New Orleans dish. Mm-hmm. And Piper is like, these are actually really good. I don't want to admit this, but they are actually really good. So then after they decide to go to the French market and do some shopping, and they go to a shop with spices and such. It was recommended in Remy's cookbook. So this is a spot that Remy like visited, and she's like, we'll go here and see what kind of stuff he uses is in his dishes. And so they meet Madame Larue, and she says what she sells in addition to being great for cooking is also used in voodoo, and she is quite the voodoo expert. Like, oh, fascinating. So you can use these spices in multiple ways. But that's true, I think, in most spices, using most magical things. So
yeah, I think so. And they're kind of is it Prue and who's a bit like negative towards it, being like, oh, I don't believe in all of this. Yeah, considering how much I've seen, even just in one season, sort of by now, I'd be a bit more again open to the possibility of other things being real as well.
I think maybe she might have faith in the magical aspect of it, but I think she doesn't trust Madame because she thinks she's just one of those money grubbing people that just wants to make a sale. Yeah, they tell Madame LaRue that where they're staying, and she gasps in horror. She's like, oh, you can't stay there. It's evil. And that's when Prue thinks she thinks it's a scam to get them into buying something. Pepper's like, I want to buy something. It's like, let her shop if she wants to shop. I don't know.
Exactly.
But Prue's just like, oh no, we're getting out of here. She's just a scam artist. Let's get out of here. And so she guides her sisters out, quite proud of herself for not falling for it. She's like, no, we're not getting duped this time. And then Phoebe suddenly feels queasy. So she's like, oh, maybe I'll just go inside that shop again and get some ginger because I heard that's good for your stomach. But she walks in there and she overhears Madame LaRue telling another customer that wherever they're staying is cursed. She's like, oh, well, maybe she is a scammer. Our place is evil and their place is cursed. So maybe she's just trying to get stuff.
Yeah, that's dodgy. To be fair, she does look like
that's not a good track record for you, Madame LaRue. So Phoebe just leaves, with her upset stomach, and she's like, I guess not. Back at the B&B, Phoebe comes up upon Yvonne cooking over the stove, and she believes she saw her hair in the pot. She's like, wait, is that my hair? And he was like, why did you cut my hair off? And Yvonne says, you have no idea what you're dealing with.
I love that line in anything that is ever used in. I love, you have no idea what you're dealing with.
I'm like, because it's like, it can really be interpreted in so many ways. It could be really threatening. It could just be like stop talking. It's none of your business. It could be,
Yeah. And they always end up saying it to the charmed ones, I feel, as well. And it's always like, no, you have no idea who you're dealing with.
So then Phoebe goes to her sisters and she's like, I think she's doing something crazy. So then all three girls come into the kitchen to investigate. They're like, let's just see. And they inspect the pot and everything seems in order. Like, it looks like a good gumbo. So they just leave it be and Phoebe goes to sleep and rest. The next day, they have another failed attempt at Remy's. They can't get in again.
No luck whatsoever.
So then they decide to go back to another place. I wouldn't have gone to the same place. I would have tried another place because when I travel, I like to just find as many places as I can. So I wouldn't have gone to the same place, but
Yeah, same. I always want to try something different every single day, but
Yeah. And then after that, they go to Gabrielle's Voodoo Museum. They decide to see the crazy airport lady's Voodoo Museum card that they gave her. And it's only Prue and Piper that go because Phoebe stays home and rests because, she's still not feeling very well. So they meet Helen, which is Gabrielle's sister. She's working at the front desk of the museum, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I'll give you a tour." She's walking them through the museum. She's giving the history of voodoo, which is really fascinating, accurate stuff.
yeah, I really like this whole section because having visited voodoo museums in New Orleans, they are exactly quite like this.
Nice.
So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I'll read an excerpt from the book because it's interesting stuff. Voodoo got its start in New Orleans in the mid to late 1700s with the import of slaves from the French island colonies of Martinique, Guadeloupe, and Santo Domingo. And the slaves formed the majority of voodoo worshippers in the years that followed. The voodoo priesthood mainly consisted of free people of color, many of them mixed race, which is good. And then they talk about Marie Laveau, which was a real person. She was a real historic figure.
Yeah, I love that because of American Horror Story as well. Angela Bassett.
I haven't seen it. Because American Horror Story does take place in New Orleans, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's season 3, I think, is the Coven season, and it's got Angela Bassett playing. I've lost the name now.
Marie Laveau. But she was said to have possessed strong supernatural powers that were recognized and respected by blacks and whites alike, a common ground that was somewhere rare in 19th century New Orleans. People still visit her grave to contact her spirit and ask for her help. That is so cool. So very neat stuff. And then she talks about some of the terminology, gree bags and Loa, which are the spirits. They can be good or bad, which come up later in this book. And she talks about this black magic secret society, where they do these horrible rituals where they worship the Petro Loa, which are the evil spirits. And so Prue and Piper are just really, they're getting chills. Like, ooh, all this evil talk. I don't know if I like that. The sisters over here, Gabrielle and Andre, Andre is Helen's fiance at this point, and she overhears them talking in the background, and they're talking about how Helen might be involved in the black magic, and they have to help her. They have to stop her. And then Phoebe awakens to a mostly empty mansion. She's like, "Hello," and she's walking down the stairs. What's going on? It's like 7 p.m. at night. And where's everybody? And then Randy runs in, and he's like shirtless in short shorts with a hose.
Loves that image.
Hey, Phoebe, I was just working in the garden.
Yeah, it's pretty cringe actually, but
so campy, but it makes me laugh and it's good. So
yeah, for sure. It's a quote where it says, "Pair of denim shorts revealed his tanned, muscular torso and legs. A dripping hose poised above a bed of bright pink and yellow." It is very catchy, but like you say, I love it as well.
Why not? Soak it up. And Phoebe was glad the competition was elsewhere. Then Randy shows Phoebe the cabin. He's like, "Come on, I'll show you the cabin where I live. I live here too. I live out back actually. So does Yvonne." She's like, "Oh, that's interesting." And then he's like, "I'm going to take you to the cemetery now." She's like, "There's a cemetery here?"
Yeah, that sounds really safe as well, isn't it? Would you like to see this old cemetery? Sure, why not?
Like, yeah, take me there. Oh, it's the sexiest place I can think of. Yeah. While they're on the way there, this hostile snake comes to Phoebe. It's about to bite her, and then Randy's like, "Whoa, hold it!" And he turns around and he grabs the snake by the head, picks it up, and holds it in front of his face, and he's like talking to it.
Yeah, very Harry Potter-like again, isn't it?
The basilisk. But yeah, he's like the snake charmer, and then he talks to it and then releases it back into the grass, and it goes away. And then Phoebe gets a premonition of the girl again. It was a little girl. I keep thinking they said a little girl.
Yeah, I thought that
and then,
as well.
In the end of the book, she wasn't such a little girl. Unless it's two different people. But
yeah, it's a bit confusing.
Yeah. But there's a girl, and there's chanting in the air, and then the shadow of this giant reptile attacks her. And Phoebe starts to think that Randy was involved in that.
Yeah, I think that's quite a conclusion I'd jump to as well, to be fair.
Right. I mean, like, he was just there. You, like, just touched him. And
yeah, having just spoken to a snake as well, it looks all very suspicious.
They are really weaving in all the suspicions in this book. That I was like the edge of my seat. I'm like, who do I trust? I can't trust anybody in this book. Piper wakes up in the middle of the night, and then she notices a fire outside of the balcony. And Piper steps on the balcony. She looks at it. And she hears like this irregular drum rhythm. She's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna get dressed and go check it out. Go outside." I'm like, I can't think of anybody who would get out of their bed in the middle of the night to go check out a fire that they see far off in the distance.
Yeah, especially on your own as well. Like, she's got 2 sister witches. You'd think you'd at least ask someone to come with you.
Right.
I
right.
don't know.
She just goes out there in the middle of the night. And like, I don't know. I'm like, I'm sleeping. I'm tired. I'm not going to go look into whatever is scary. But sure. It's like if it was maybe like my pet getting into something, or if somebody I know was walking over there, then I might go up, but just not. I don't know. So she decides to check it out. She follows the fire and this crazy drum thing, and she's sneaking in the bushes, and she sees this group, and they're all in red robes, and they're chanting these words she doesn't understand, and she assumes they're doing like a Petro Loa ritual, and she hears "We calls Deadneck to bring suffering and death to our enemies." Oh, that sounds pretty evil.
No room for doubt.
Like, well, I should probably go back. And then Piper turns around, and this like giant alligator comes, and she tries to chomp on her, and she's running, and more come out. So there's like a big group of gators that are like chasing her. And she's yeah. And she's running back to the house, and then Randy appears. He's like, and the gators just disappear. They retreat. So obviously he's doing his like snake whispering again.
Yeah.
And so Randy like tells Piper that she and her sisters must leave. They are in danger, and he instructs her to stay in her room till morning. What a night Piper had.
Yeah, I kind of felt reading this scene as well, like she almost forgot that she could freeze things. I was a bit like, if you're being chased by loads of alligators,
freeze them and run.
Right. Yeah, that was a bit strange. But
especially when her freezing is a fear response and she's afraid. That's like
exactly.
She goes and she wakes up Phoebe and Prue. She's like, "You guys, you won't believe what just happened to me." And they discuss everything they know. Phoebe talks about how her encounter with Randy as well, and Prue's like, "Oh, you guys, this is really crazy. Maybe we should leave. This is getting crazy. I don't know who we can trust anymore." So they decide that they're going to leave first thing in the morning,
which is a good idea, I think.
And Phoebe is still feeling lousy. She's just getting worse and worse, it seems. This chapter ends very nicely. I love the way this chapter ends because it has Phoebe and Piper that both pass out in Prue's bed, and she like covers them up. She bundles up in bed and she goes to sleep in the rocking chair. I'm like, oh, my heartstrings.
No, I like that.
Yeah,
that was
so
nice.
Sweet. And then the next morning, Prue was the first one up. And so I thought that was really appropriate too, because they always said Prue was the first one up and the last one down. And this book made it true. She was the last to go to bed. And so, love that.
I like that. I like when little bits like that, whether it's on purpose or if it's coincidental, sort of tie back quite nicely to the show.
Especially since these books were actually written before a lot of those episodes.
Oh yeah, I think Phoebe didn't mention to the sisters before they went to sleep about her premonition either.
Oh right,
was a
right.
bit.
She had talked about her thing with Randy.
Yeah, I was like, if you're gonna mention it at any point, now's the time to do it. After Piper's just shared her information, but just go to bed, Phoebe. It's fine.
Right. So yeah, it's the next morning, and then the ever responsible Prue makes all the plans for their getaway. Phoebe returns to her room to get her things. She didn't even unpack. She brought like one duffel bag with her, and she didn't even unpack it. She's like, "I'm ready, packed to go."
She brought a toothbrush, pajamas, and like a bathing suit or something.
That's it. Just she wears like the same clothes the entire trip, the whole week. Before she goes into her room, she has a vision of a hand opening her door like previously. She's like, okay, so maybe there's somebody in my room right now. Maybe I should be careful. But then she walks in, and then she calls Prue and Piper over. She's like, "You guys!" And they find like this symbol on her pillow, and it's written like in black ink or something like that. And it was what do they call it? A beve.
Yeah, I didn't want to try and pronounce that word, so well done for doing it.
As the accent, I forget which one, accent grave. I think Vive. It's a voodoo object used to summon Aloha. So, but that was on her pillow. She's like, oh my gosh, somebody is casting spells on me. We really need to get out of here.
Yeah, she needs to chuck her toothbrush in her bag and just get out of there straight away.
Yeah. And Piper recognized she saw the same kind of symbol or something like it in her little venture the night before, and so she's like, yeah, this isn't right. And Phoebe is just she's having very little energy. She's kind of like walking, like stumbling down the stairs. She's dizzy. So this is not looking good. And then, but as before they leave, Gabrielle calls them, and she's like, oh, you know what, you guys, you can stay at me for the rest of the week. How about that? It's like, no, you're gonna get out of New Orleans.
Yeah, that's really strange to me, because I actually do like this book as a whole, but there's some points where like I've just suddenly forgotten about overhearing that conversation back at the Voodoo Museum about all the involvement with secret societies, and now the idea of staying with Gabrielle is like on the table,
right?
Like as a possibility.
Like, we hear your sister is doing crazy stuff, and you want us to stay there. Oh, great! Especially after your freak out at the airport. I still wouldn't forgive her for that freak out. I don't care how nice she is right now.
No, I'd hold that as a grudge.
I mean, that's pretty bad. So now, so they say, okay, maybe we'll just go over there and check it out. They didn't agree to stay there yet, but they just figured, we'll swing by and see how we feel. But then Yvonne comes and she appeared, and she's like, that is not a good idea. you have to leave New Orleans now, or you will die. And Prue's like, oh, you're threatening us? And she like pushes against the wall. She's like, no, we do not take kindly to threats. And then Phoebe goes, like, you have no idea what you're dealing with. I'm like, ooh.
Don't mess with us, got it.
This is like drama. Yes. And I love that she used the line against her. So then Prue let her down, and stunned, Yvonne just ran off. She's like, oh my gosh. And then so they go to the Voodoo Museum, and Gabrielle meets the sisters, but she's like, Helen has not come home yet. She usually calls me when she comes home. Something must be wrong. She's like, I'm so scared, you guys. And she locks up her Voodoo Museum for the day. It's like, yeah, I guess we'll just do that. And they go to Helen's apartment, and it's a mess. And they see the Veve again in one of the rooms, and they say something about the Petro Loa's Denek, which is the same one that Piper heard the cult people say. And then Phoebe has a vision of Helen in the center of a ritual. People surrounding her, they're chanting. She's in the middle of this circle. So they're like, okay, this does not look good. And so she agrees to come fight them or figure out what's going on, even though she's still like really pretty sick.
Phoebe's getting visions like left, right, and center in this book.
Yeah. That power is on fire. So then the sisters go to Gabrielle's apartment. They're like, well, stay here. Gabrielle goes out shopping for groceries. She's like, yeah, I'll make a nice dinner. Why don't you have some fun?
It goes right in.
And as soon as Gabrielle returns, Piper is like, oh, let me help you with those bags. And then behind Gabrielle comes Helen. And she's like, her eyes are rolled in the back of her head. She's like, starts choking Piper. Like, okay. So she's like, eh. And then Prue pries her off Piper. She's like, no. She's like, get off my sister. And she like gets her off. But then she starts choking Prue. So she gets Piper free, and then she starts choking Prue instead. So Piper freezes time, and they pry Prue out of her hands, and then she flings Helen out the door, and you hear her just go, "Aah!" Like this. I don't know what she is. She's like wails, like sounds like some kind of, I don't know what she sounds like. Like you have to imagine, but something like it's like howling, like this really weird, like wailing cat probably.
Yeah, she is not doing well, that's for sure. She is not well.
Right. I'm not crazy. I'm just a little unwell. So then Gabriel's like, Helen, no! But they stop her. Prue stops her. Helen is not herself. She's not your sister anymore. And Gabrielle just cries. And she's like, the society has turned her into a zombie.
Dun,
yeah.
dun.
Which I'm going to read what they said about zombie, because it's a little different than, it's not like the Walking Dead kind of zombie. It's more of like the voodoo zombie.
Yeah.
It says the victim is kind of in a suspended comatose state, capable only of obeying the one who has poisoned her. She has no will of her own, no life spirit. She is no longer the person she was. She is an automaton, a slave. Her body will be used by its new master for a short time until it dies. Crazy.
Yeah, not good at all. She's in real trouble.
Yeah. So Prue and Piper decide to visit Madame LaRue again. It's like maybe she does have something that's magical that can protect us. They buy a powder chant combo, and that should protect them from all dangers. All the three sisters, they go back to the Montague house with their powder and potion, with their powder and chant, and all their knowledge that they don't really have. And they find the secret society. Seeing this cult again, and the drumming gets louder. They're looking at them, and then Phoebe starts to begin like she is being swallowed up. Like she can't breathe. She feels all these energies and these spirits around her. She can't speak, and she's like grabbing for her sisters. And then Prue and Piper are like, "What is going on?" So they take their powder and they toss it all around Phoebe, and they start saying the spell, but it doesn't work. It does nothing. And for Phoebe, everything went black. Like she has no sense of anything. She can't hear or see or anything. So that's fun.
I was a bit disappointed they didn't actually include a spell for this.
Know.
They just sort of, they said the incantation. I was a bit like, well, where is it? I want to read
There's
it.
so many references to spells in here that aren't actually given. So that's just one of them. And there's one a little bit later on. I'm like, why don't we have these spells? So I don't know. Maybe the writer didn't feel like rhyming or something.
Yeah, it's like not very good. I'm not very good at it. Yeah.
So then, covered in mist, because where Phoebe was, it's like covered in mist now, and Piper tries to grab for Phoebe, and she felt nothing but air. Prue's like, "I'm here," even though she can't see her. So then the mist cleared, and Prue and Piper were beside each other, but Phoebe was gone. She's nowhere to be seen. Prue suggests they cast a summoning spell that they used on Phoebe in the past, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah. Because what was the reference with it? It said when she was on a date with somebody across the city and they were worried about her and she hadn't come back on time. It's like, there you go, Phoebe's off on another shorter than that. Yeah. Somewhere back.
Yeah, she was on like a motorcycle date, and so they summoned her. They said the spell, and she was like appeared in white lights. So they decided to try to do that spell again. Maybe it'll bring Phoebe back wherever she is. So Piper grabs Prue's hands, and they recite the spell. And this one they actually give. This one we'll read at the end because of the one spell that they have. Phoebe did not come. There's no Phoebe at all, so it didn't work like it did last time. But it did pick them up and pointed them in the same direction toward the city, to the New Orleans proper. So it's like, oh, okay. So I guess we go this way.
Quite a dramatic spell with him being lifted up in the air and spun around. I thought,
yeah. Once they get to the city, they could still feel the pull of the spell guiding them towards Phoebe. So like they felt like this energy, kind of like it's this way, it's this way, it's this way. And they decided to go into the club that Andre who was Ellen's fiance guy. He works at, what's it called? Seven
Tuesdays.
Yeah,
I think.
7 Tuesdays. So they go in there, and it's pretty crowded. Two frat boys give them a beer, and they took a sip of it. So it's just kind of random, but okay. You're looking for a sister, but sure, we'll drink to Phoebe. And Prue told Piper that she's going to go to the bathroom. So, but then she wandered out back to the alley to find, I don't know, why'd she go back there? She was going to go to the bathroom, and then she's like, I see the exit door. Let's look out here into the alley.
Yeah, I started feeling a bit dizzy or something.
Oh,
I'm not
need some air.
Yeah.
Okay. Then she finds Helen Zombie, and Helen Zombie is like the strongest grip ever. Like, I don't know what it is, but she's like really forceful and like insane. And her powers did not work against her this time. She can't fling her out the door like she did before. So as she was fighting her off, she's like being choked. She's kicking. She looks up, and Phoebe is standing over her too. Oh my gosh, Phoebe is a zombie. It's like, no, this is not what I wanted for my day.
No, she doesn't use. Did she come to the conclusion that her powers wasn't working because they had the beer?
Oh, that's right. She thinks that she got drugged by that beer. She thinks those frat people drugged her.
It was a really bad idea. They shouldn't have taken a sip on the way.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's why my powers don't work. It was some kind of, evil potion. Then Prue is caught in Helen's grip, and Helen just like slams her in the temple, like she might punch her, and then Prue blacks out. So that's great. Piper is sitting in the club, and she's like, "Where is Prue?" She said she was going to the bathroom. It's been like forever now. So she goes and she searches the bathroom, and she searches the back alley, and she still can't find Prue at all. And so she left the club feeling absolutely abandoned. She's like, maybe I'll just go back to Gabrielle's apartment. Maybe they'll be there.
So they're all split up now, aren't they? All three of the sisters are completely isolated from each other, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on our way to Gabrielle's, Randy appears. He's like, Prue and Phoebe are in danger. Gabrielle and Andre are to blame, and they have both of them. They have your sisters. I was too late to save my own. So he's really laying a lot on. Like, it's just like, these are the bad guys. And Piper's like, are you sure? She has nothing else to go on, so she's going with it, but she's still unsure of who to trust.
Yeah.
And then Prue wakes up in a voodoo temple. Her powers still aren't working, and she still thinks it was the beer and she was drugged. Because she tries to move like sticks out of her way so she can see clearer, and it's not working. So she's like, oh my goodness, that beer did me in. And then she just crawls a little bit, and then she can see fine. And she sees Phoebe and Helen in the corner of the room in their zombie state, and then she sees the other two people in red robes, and she's like, hey, why are you doing this to us? And then Gabrielle and Andre, they put down their hoods, and it's them. They reveal themselves, and they're like in their evil red robes. Oh my gosh. And this is where the chapter where she reveals her entire plan.
In detail from start to finish. I love that.
She says, like, Helen was really the one trying to help her. It's not me trying to help Helen. Helen was the good one, and I'm the bad one. So I just switched it. And then... And you know what? Helen is not fiancé with Andre. Andre is really my man. So, double win. Like,
that's so sad. Just her boyfriend's basically cheated on her with her sister. That is not
right.
Cool.
So, and then she goes, the reason I was rushing home from San Francisco was because Helen was getting too close to exposing our evil ways. And Andre called me and tell me this. So I had to rush home to stop her. And, the conversation about her being the bad one, that was all planted. We wanted you to hear that. Ha, 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 ha. And then she tells Prue that this Petrolo is Zendek. He needs human blood to keep him happy. And the three of you would make perfect sacrifices. I knew that once you crossed me at the airport, that you that I had to make you as victims. Like, wow.
It's so hard. Like, it wasn't even her seat in the first place, but then it's like, oh, I think you deserve to be sacrificed now.
It's like, wow. And you wait. So she probably waited at the airport the whole time, just trying to find them.
Yeah.
Anyway. And she feels no remorse for hurting her sister. She's like, but she's your sister. She's like, oh. She's like, it had to be done. That's just the way it is. Like, wow.
Yeah, harsh.
And then she said, I did the same thing to this Caroline chick who was... And if she was dating Andre, and I cannot have her dating Andre because he's only for me.
Well, that was really weird because, I mean, did Andre not mind that Gabrielle just sort of did something to Caroline? Did he not care? Like, that was a bit strange. Right. Probably if he was evil, but,
Andre's just trying to get action wherever he can get it, pretty much, I think. Like,
that's how I mean. Yeah.
He's like, oh, one girl down. Oh, well, go to the next one.
Yeah.
And he's kind of the quiet type. He has just like two things in this whole book. She would pay Kane and Daphne, which are the Montague house owners. She would pay them to keep tabs on all her sacrifices. So the whole B&B was a front for people to be sacrificed.
Yeah, that was a good twist, and I like how it all tied together for that. It makes me wonder about the other two guests at the beginning. Did they ever?
They were probably sacrificed. I thought it was the wailing that Piper heard, or no, Phoebe heard. When Phoebe went out on the balcony, she heard all that. When Phoebe heard the wailing and stuff in the balcony that one night, I think that was them being killed.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's sad for them, but it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So, lovely couple. Goodbye. Never seen from again. Kane and Daphne, the couple who owned the house, she's like, I had to get rid of them too.
She got rid of all of them, didn't she?
Yeah.
Like, how's she going to get any future sacrifices if you get rid of your people who are delivering them to you? She's not really forward thinking, is she?
Right. Like, you must know your end is coming. Maybe.
Yeah.
But she also reveals that they were the ones that were slowly poisoning Phoebe. So the couple was keeping their sacrifices and poisoning them, probably in all the food. So
yeah.
But yeah, that's everything is revealed. Bam. Gasp and gasp. So then Piper arrives with Randy, and she sees everybody in the distance, and she sees Gabrielle over Prue, and she sees Randy, but at least she knows now that he was telling the truth about Gabrielle and Andre. She's like, okay, I guess they are evil. All right. And my sisters are here, so that's true too. Gabrielle pulled out a dagger. They always have daggers. They always have daggers or athames in these books.
It's like their go-to weapon, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah, it's easy. And Piper freezes the room, and she sees that Randy didn't freeze, which means he must be a good witch. And Randy's like, "It's time, Piper." And they go to Prue, and then all of a sudden, Yvonne comes out. Like, I don't know where she came from, but she was apparently there watching them too. And Randy and Yvonne are like, "We've been working together." Yvonne is a Cajun healer, and she did take Phoebe's hair, and she did make that symbol on her pillow, but that was only to ward off evil.
Yeah, and if she'd have explained herself maybe a little bit earlier, there could have been a lot less confusion about,
I know. You would have been pinned up against the wall and been like, because you were acting really like shady. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's suspicious. Like, what did you expect would happen?
I mean, at least, don't be so gruff with your words. You could have explained things a little nicer, a little more calmly, and maybe it would have been more okay.
Yeah, she could have sat them down with like a nice cup of iced tea and been like, I've got something to explain to you guys. But no, very ominous with, you're going to die. So.
Right. But, it's all about building that tension in the book. So, and she said she was trying to ward off the evil, but it wasn't powerful enough. So, Yvonne goes to Phoebe, and then, this is where she uses her own kind of mumbo jumbo, and she releases Phoebe and Helen from their zombie state. She like brings them back to life with the salt thing, and chants something, which is something we could have gotten a chant for, but missed out.
Yeah, missed opportunity again. It's kind of sad.
Yeah. So Phoebe and Helen are back to normal, and they hustled. Since everyone's still frozen, they got a lot done in this freeze.
I was reading it. I was like, lost quite a while.
Yeah, they explain themselves, they free them, and then they have time to run out and hide a little bit. So everyone hides away, and then when time freezes, Gabrielle and Andre are like, "Where did they go? You idiot! You guys, how'd you let them get away?"
Yeah, they're confused.
Yeah. And then while they're in hiding, Yvonne gives the girls an ancient spell on a piece of yellow paper, and it's to banish a Petro Loa for good. You have to name the Loa in the spell, and then we'll get rid of it, and you won't have any problems anymore. And then they see Gabrielle and Andre summon a giant serpent Loa, and so the power of three, they step out of the shadows, and they go, "We're gonna get rid of this Loa once and for all," and they say the spell, which we don't see, and
yeah,
and it fails. It did not work. And then Randy comes out of nowhere. He's like, "Oh, how about this?" And he throws like this little charm in the circle, and then another Loa in the form of a vulture appears. So this giant snake and this giant vulture are now like in the room together.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it? The whole like idea of all that, but I like it.
I do. I mean, I can picture the imagery. I kind of picture them kind of like ghostly in a way. So they have a little bit of translucence, maybe a glow.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, that would be cool. But yeah, so these two Loas now, these animal spirits are like kind of aggressive to each other. They're like, "What are you doing here? What are you doing here?" And so they like, after a little bit of that aggression, the snake then coils around Andre and like wraps him up, and then they disappear into the mist. And then the vulture grabs Gabrielle by the waist and flies away, and then disappears into the mist. What just happened?
Just by a giant.
I'm like, okay, we didn't even do anything. What just happened? I was just like, oh man. So you get all that just from throwing that little charm in the circle? That's all we had to do this whole time?
I was thinking, it's like they even gave the charmed ones a spell to give it a try. It's like, you've got that charm, just chuck the charm.
Yeah. So what were we even here for? They didn't even need them at all, apparently.
Exactly.
So Ivana explains that the vulture was actually the true Zdenek, but the snake was another Loa. Did they know who the true Zdenek was, or were they just calling the snake Zdenek?
I'm not too sure about it all. Like, from the impression I get, Gabrielle and Andre were worshipping two separate evil Loas, and they shouldn't be doing that because they don't appreciate not being the only one being worshipped.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure how Randy knew. I don't know. I guess he'd been spying on them for a while, I guess. But
sure, okay, makes sense. So I thought he just kind of threw the charm in there, which summoned the other one, but maybe they were kind of double dealing. That makes more sense. And so because the two Loas found each other, worshiping more than one Loa is a no-no, and it costs them their lives. So they sympathize Helen's loss because Helen is sad that her sister just was killed and taken away somewhere.
Carried off by a bird.
Yeah, And so Piper and her sisters are now finally at a table at Remy's. This is the last chapter. They are at a table because Yvonne apparently knew the famous chef since he was a little child. So
I love that. It's a secret.
Another secret. I know, man. It's like, you could have got us in here this whole time. But then they have a nice little dinner. Yvonne is there with them. And then Randy and Helen arrive, and they're a couple now. Surprise, surprise.
Yes, but slap in the face to Phoebe and Piper.
Like, oh, well, I guess my little summer romance isn't a thing now. And they go back. They start say there's no more evidence of Kate and Daphne, so they must have been killed somewhere too. Perfect cleanup because now we don't have to worry about them. And the group is now comforted that the horrors are over. Remy, the chef, famous chef, comes to the table, and Piper is like starstruck. She is geeking out. And then it ends with them just saying, "Never a dull moment."
Yeah, it was quite a nice end to the book. Like, you could just imagine the end credits just going after that, like them smiling and stuff. But
yeah, it did wrap up very nicely. It seemed like a really good, because I always thought before the end, I'm like, is Remy's ever going to come up? Why is she so attached to this restaurant that she's never going to get into? So yeah, it finally comes full circle there, which is good.
Yeah, for sure.
Any final thoughts?
I think the reason why I wanted to do this book rather than the others, I think, is because it's something we never really got to see in the show that much, was the sisters going out of San Francisco. So I always thought it was quite a nice idea to take them out of their usual arena and put them somewhere on a vacation.
Right.
So I love the whole premise of it. There are certain aspects, as we said throughout reading the book, that I was a bit not too sure it's the most sensible decisions you're making here, girls. But I enjoyed it overall. I did.
I did too. I think it was a fun book, and I did have some notes because I thought, I liked that this was the first time we ever seen a true vacation, because we've seen snippets of Piper in Hawaii, and we know that Piper and Leo go to Paris, but we never ever see that happening.
Exactly. I think the closest we might have got was brought out of Americans again. They sort of left San Francisco for a little while, but it was still just around the corner. I don't think they went too far.
I liked Prue in this a lot because just seeing her be her filled my heart. And then I liked the mystery and the suspicions and the creepy buildup. I thought it was really riveting. I thought the climax wasn't as exciting, but it was still a really nice journey.
Yeah, I agree. I think the climax could have been a little better explained, possibly. But I like that it was voodoo as well. It was something other than the usual sort of, forces of evil that they encounter. So
exactly. Would you consider this book canon, or would you want it to be canon?
Do you know what? Because I think I said to you before, this was the first Charmed book I actually ever bought when I was younger. And I was quite obsessed with this one, and I really did want it to be canon because of the fact that it was a vacation for them. I always thought that was lacking in the show, along with Halloween episodes and Christmas and stuff. I think there was missed opportunities for things like that.
I want to know about Madame LaRue, though, because I want to know if she was really truly a con artist, or is there more than meets the eye,
Yeah, that's a really good point. She could have possibly showed up at the end, maybe, as well.
Right.
Maybe used as a character a little bit.
I think it was funny that the Book of Shadows wasn't used at all. It was only mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. I also found it funny, but I think it was Phoebe that said in the book that, I wish I'd been able to bring the Book of Shadows with us. And I was like, no, you're always so anti taking the book out of the house. I don't think you'd have wanted to do that.
Right. And I said, in my Ken Uncle hat, I think this would have been a fun episode because we do get to see the magic of voodoo culture and see there's other magic out there than what we're used to. The closest we got to that was House Call, where they had the witch doctor.
Yeah, exactly.
And I said, for it to be truly canon, though, there'd have to be some reference to Leo, since Piper and Phoebe were once again competing for a guy. And then this would have been after Piper declared her love in Love Hurts.
Yeah, and the lack of no references to Andy either, considering when it's supposed to take place. I thought it was a bit suspect.
Exactly. Yeah, there should have been grief over Andy's death. And I think maybe they could have made the whole vacation no magic was to help Prue kind of separate herself from the tragedy.
Exactly. That's it in my head.
Or maybe it was to make up for the canceled Cabo trip because they were supposed to go to Cabo in Love Hurts and they got canceled with all the Starkletter stuff. So, okay. Do you want to read the one spell that was used?
Should we try a spell?
Why not? Let's try a spell.
In the wind, I sing this rhyme. Bring death before me, before my time.
You've really got to lay off the rhyming, Prue.
Wonderful. Witty, but wordy.
I did the rhyme. I will do the time. Good night.
Okay, I got up. Okay. To search for a lost loved one, search north and south and east and west for one who's left our humble nest. Search land and sea and sky above. Bring safely back the one we love.
Yeah. And I think I like that spell. It's nice. It works.
Yeah, I like it. That's the sort of one that I could imagine having been used on the show. Mm-hmm. I think it's some sort of rhyming structure.
Yeah, it's simple, it's easy to say, it flows really well. And it's like, if this is how you write spells, you could have written more and it would have been lovely.
Exactly. It's missed opportunities.
Mm-hmm. I'm doing this thing where I'm ranking the baddies. So where do you think your ranking is headed right now? Do you want me to go through mine first?
Yeah, if you do yours, and I'll...
You kind of get yeah. All right, so right now, I still have Falcroft, which was the bad guy from book 4, as my number 1.
Yeah.
And he was a demon who creates time rifts and in the past, present, and future. He can glamour. He's a time ripple, super strength, and he's like this green, beastly guy. He's kind of foreboding, so he's still my number 1.
Yeah.
Then I put Gabrielle as number 2 because she is a really good actress. And I can see her being really threatening in the right circumstances. She doesn't have much strength in terms of power, but she can be very deceptive and manipulative, and that's a scary thing.
Yeah.
Then I have Justin Morgan, which was the Coven of the New Sun leader in the Crimson Spell, because he's a creepy cult leader taking advantage of children. That's not cool. So I think he was pretty successful. Then I have Lascaris, the kissing warlock, the guy that was making Prue kiss everybody. And then I have Jeremy as number 5, which we all know him. And then Hugh Montgomery, the Matthew Tate wannabe, as my final last one in the ranking.
Right. Is that 6 then?
That's 6. Yeah, we have 6 baddies so far.
I think I agree with that mostly. I might put Jeremy a little bit higher up the list just because the circumstances of being the first person that they really encountered. Like, he probably could have, if it had gotten to him sooner, just put an end to it straight away.
True. Yeah.
Which wouldn't have been good for us, but yeah.
So we probably put him as like number 4?
Yeah, I'll put him as number 4
over Lascaris.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Other than that, I think I agree with you, actually.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. Cool. All right. So now I have a game for you.
Okay.
What is this, some kind of game?
Grimoire Games!
Some people think this is entertainment.
What New Orleans dish are you? So it's more like one of those kind of personality quizzes, which I thought would be fun.
Awesome. I don't know how many dishes I know.
All right. So this one is, first question. Do you mind sharing your food? You can choose not at all, have as much as you like, or yes, I do. If you wanted this, you should have ordered it.
I think for me, it kind of depends on the day, but I'm normally quite open to letting people share my food. So yeah, have as much as you want. I'm quite generous.
Okay. Do you mind getting a little messy? And the options are, bring it on. The messier, the better. It's like, yeah. Or, yeah, I want a knife and a fork, please.
I'm definitely a knife and a fork person. I don't like the idea of eating messy food in front of other people. If I'm alone, kettle of fish, I don't care if I'm on my own. But
all right.
Knife and...
Me too. I'm the same way. Good. How do you want to spend your next birthday? Partying sun up to sundown, a nice home-cooked meal by my loved one. My birthday will just be like any other day. Or laser tag.
For me, the truthful answer right now would be I'd love to go on holiday because we haven't been able to leave like our town for ages.
Sure.
But I'd say laser tag. That sounds like fun.
Laser tag, yeah. Where do you want to go on your next vacation or holiday? A tropical beach, a music festival, anywhere with my family and loved ones. Let's go abroad. Home sweet home. I don't want to leave New Orleans, which is not your home, but you know.
I would go for a beach. That sounds quite nice.
All right. What features do you look for in a soulmate? Gentle, caring, laid back, wild, crazy, up for anything. Someone just like me. Someone completely opposite of me.
Do you know what? I think I'll go for the first one. Someone who's quite laid back and just a nice person. I don't think you can go much wrong with a nice person.
Right.
Honest.
Yeah, exactly.
I always get a bad rep for nice guys. I think, I think it's a good choice.
It's good. It works. It's happy. How hot do you like your food? I don't like hot sauce. I like a little spice on some things. I put hot sauce on everything. I keep hot sauce in my purse, pockets, glove box, and a desk at work.
I'm a little spice sort of person, just a little bit.
You're picking like all the same things I picked, which is good. So we're kind of will be the same thing, whatever it ends up being. All right. What is your ideal weekend? Romantic evening with my significant other, partying like I did in college, staying in bed all day, hanging with my kids. Family comes first. I don't have any
probably like a nice romantic one, man, I suppose. Like anything that we get out and do something.
Yeah. And then
it doesn't have to be romantic, just having a good time.
Right. It's always anything like that. Just a nice stroll, a dinner, you know? Totally.
Right.
And then the last one is, what movie genre do you prefer to watch? Romance, drama, comedy, action, anything at an independent film festival?
I would go probably for action. I like all films except for romance films.
Yeah. All right, let's see what we got. It says you are crawfish.
Crawfish.
The most southern of southern. You are a true southern folk and you wear it proudly. You are extremely social, making friends wherever you go. You may be a little messy, but you clean up well. I don't know.
It's hit and miss, but now I want to eat some crawfish. So.
Yeah, so that's what we got. How fun. Okay. All right. Now, is there any tip for future white letters? So any moral or lesson we could have learned from this book?
I was out being a force of good in the universe.
I think it's just to be... Communication is what I would go for this book, because I feel like if Yvonne had communicated to them earlier, could have saved her a lot of pain. And I don't think Phoebe did share her visions as much as she could have done either. She sort of just thought, oh well, it could have been the past, never mind. So communication is what I'll go for.
That's a good one. Yeah, I like that. My tip is when you're visiting someplace new, don't be afraid to immerse yourself in the culture. Be curious and open to learning and experiment. So,
I like that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. I'm glad we did it. I guess we're done. So where can people find you on social media?
Social media. I am on...
If you like that.
No, I'm not with that. I'm on Twitter and Instagram. I don't really post much on either. But my Twitter handle is nd_Andrews. So you're welcome to have a follow on there. I do like a lot of book posts because I'm a writer myself, like I said. So if you're into that...
Yeah. And what's your book again? You can tell your book again?
My book is called The Devil's Hand.
Yes, we'll look that up. That'll be fun.
Yeah, it's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart. If you're in England, it's on Blackwell's. So it's everywhere.
All right. Well, thank you. You can find me on KGZ87 on Instagram. You can also follow the podcast, Words of the Witches, on Instagram, or on Facebook, Words of the Witches, a Charmed Podcast. And we encourage you to keep a list of your bad baddies so we can turn that in at the end of 10 books. And then you can also email us at wordsofwitchespod@gmail.com. So, yay! See you later.
See you later.
Alligator. Bye.
Bye.